but he's
Oh boy.
done it all on his own, and pretty much kind of developed his own system.
He's talking about
Peter Ralston.
I have one of his books.
Oh, yeah. He's pretty good.
Yeah, it's cute. It's, I only read little bits and pieces of it. I don't think I really needed it. But,
Which book is it?
the Book of Not Knowing.
Yeah, his most recent one.
Yeah.
It's a book about that.
It's a huge book.
So what's on your tattoos?
Oh, jeez, yeah. When you see this thing, I got this about 1.5 years ago.
What is it? It's a butterfly.
No.
Oh no.
It's a moth. It's called a death's head moth.
Death's head?
Death
Head. Okay, let's see the whole thing.
Woman.
Oh,
And a
that's
sketch
beautiful.
with skulls.
That's nice. Show Susie. Check it out.
What is
Her
it?
daughter got all kinds of tattoos.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just as the two.
Oh, nice.
These skulls
Oh, nice.
And show Mike.
Yeah.
You don't want to be left out.
Oh, okay.
So what's the scoop on this moth? How's it?
Well, it didn't make sense until now.
Because moths transmute into
They transform into or the caterpillar
caterpillar.
to
Becomes a moth.
yeah.
Yeah, they go from. Do you remember that joke I saw? The on the paper, there was this there's like this worm laying down on the bed, like a teenager, with shades on him, smoking a cigarette, and his dad is over there.
He's a butterfly.
He's a butterfly, and he goes, "What did he say?"
Son.
Yeah.
He has a cigarette.
Yeah.
The kid has a cigarette and something.
The worm, yeah.
The worm, he's laying there with a cigarette and something else.
In his mouth, he's laying on the, the bed. And what did the dad say?
He said something about if you don't change or something.
Yeah. You'll never amount to anything. I thought that was great. So, fill us in on what's going on with you. This is very exciting, Susie. I don't know if I told you what's happening with Bobby.
You want me to share what I shared with you?
No, I want you to share what you're going to
Because there were some major developments since I talked to you yesterday.
There's been a major. Oh, let's hear about that.
So, anyways, I think I'm right about at the end here. Like it's pretty clear to me that it's like I'm right on the cusp, and it's like I'm essentially resisting with all my might. And I don't think I can hold it back any longer. In fact, I'm surprised it didn't happen today.
What do you mean by happen? What did happen?
Well, just the the fear is so intense, and it's like here this last week I've just been bumping into people just at the right time, just to give me exactly what I needed, and there's just like, as far as the ego goes, there's like a couple strands left, and that's essentially, I haven't done any meditation, to be quite honest with you, like very little. I could probably count, maybe 20 times I've meditated in my whole life, but what I actually just realized is I think I've been a meditator my whole life, but not formal meditation. Like, and I meditate while I clean. I never realized that. It gets me into that groove, and like my favorite pastime for the last couple months have been just watching the mind, just studying the mind, and I tend to do that best when I'm busy with my hands. So like I'll wash dishes or I'll clean the house. And just recently I had like a big jar of coins, like big jar, and I've counted out about like $500 or something. I've been saving that up for a few years now. So I actually turned that into a meditation, because it's like, anything repetitive. Anything repetitive, and then I'll just see what thoughts come up as I'm doing that. And then, insights come and go, or not come and go, but, a number of insights, and then you know, I see what the ego's doing now. It's the mind seeks to identify with anything it possibly can. It doesn't care what it is. It just needs something to latch on to create that identity.
Yes.
And that's why we can't see. It's because, you know, the mind is always working to project that, you know, illusory self.
Right.
And so now it's like I've essentially had 2 repetitive thoughts. That's it.
What are they?
Yeah, well, okay, so I
Sex
figured this
and
out
money.
yesterday. I figured out what's going on is so I've been online a lot. I found a lot of I know a lot of awakened people that I met online. I don't know how I managed to do that, but over the course of the last few months, it's just, you know, they're just popping out of the woodwork.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Facebook and different spirituality forums. And so a few of them have kind of been like giving me little bumps, just like pushing me.
Mm-hmm.
There was one time where I thought I was awake actually, and it was really just a big insight. So I had one, you know, it was like, he was just like, dude, you're not done. He's like, you're not even close. And I argued with him back and forth in this form, and then finally I was like, wait a minute, this guy knows what he's talking about. And so it was like, you know, I had to really open my eyes, and I had to be more open-minded. That's what I learned from that lesson. But so what was I was talking about? Okay, so what I've been doing is I've been going to these different people and then asking them questions all the time,
Mm-hmm.
rather than doing it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that's happening is I've been like wanting to share my insights and stuff with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I wanted to be like the prize student. That's what the ego wants. It wants to be like
Right.
the prize student or whatever.
Recognition.
So I told 2 of them I can tell stop talking to me, because they know it's time for me to go off on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is like, you know, I used to participate on a lot of forums online, and I was always trying to help people, but I realized, you know, what I was actually trying to do was display, like, you know, my superiority.
Right.
You know, it wasn't like, it was like disguised, you know, whatever I was typing,
Right.
it disguised as me helping them.
Right.
So I had to like delete my accounts on the forums, and it's still like, you know, these imaginary conversations in my head. It's like, please the teacher, help the students. And so I swear, like, it just goes boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And I know what I need to do now. And I think, like, you know, once those are gone, I think it's
So what
gonna
do you
pop.
need to do now?
Well, I discovered inquiry not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been constantly asking questions, questioning everything. And it's like, I seem to forget how powerful that is. And, like, the answers present themselves whether you realize it or not. And then once in a while, it's happened to me a couple times, so it'll be like, oh, shoot. It'll be like, boom, 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 just all answered at once. And I'll be like, oh my God, I asked that question. And it'll just, you know, come out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened to me yesterday. And, what was it? Ooh, okay, so now it's like, I can see now that the universe is just pushing me along.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, so the lesson that I learned yesterday was actually surrender. It's time to just completely
Mm-hmm.
let go. I don't have to do anything anymore.
So what's you said there was one point where you thought you realized, and you were arguing with this guy in this forum or something. So what's then you realized that, you know, you weren't, or that it was, you just had some insight. What is being realized going to look like?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, I don't know.
So do you think when you realize, then what is it like? You're at the mountaintop, or you're on your laurels?
I have no idea. I don't know. They say, you know, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
Yeah, what
So
does
it's
that
like-
mean to you?
So I think it just means like reassuming your role. That's it.
What do
I
you
mean, it's like
reassuming?
we each play a role,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't realize we're just playing a role. And then It's like, once you awaken, you see the true nature of reality, at least to a certain extent. Maybe you don't know exactly who you are, the unnameable or whatnot. But you know that you have to reassume the role.
What does that mean, reassume the role?
Well, I mean, the fact is we don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
We just think we are. We think we're doing something.
Mm-hmm. So what role is there to reassume?
I have no idea.
So, what makes you think you're not realized right now?
They say that I am. I just don't know I am.
Hmm?
They say that everybody is. Everybody is awake. I
Right.
just don't realize it.
Right. So what does that mean to be awake?
To be alive, I guess.
Well, everyone's alive, right?
Yeah. I have no idea. I don't know.
Yeah. So you guys are alive, right? Do you wonder whether you're awake or not, or?
Yeah, definitely. I wonder why I'm not more aware
Of what?
of what's going on around me. There's an awareness that's just not as enlightened as it should be.
At what level? What's going on?
At what level?
You mean like the cat that's peeing next door, or the people that are fighting 3 houses over? What do you mean by what's around you?
No, it's in this space here.
Okay.
Being more aware, being more calm and relaxed, and feeling a more, I don't know, inherent connection.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, particularly with the other people, instead of letting my ego or whatever it's called filter everything. It's
Your thoughts.
right. It's more of a natural, just letting the senses absorb whatever's going on, and it's hard for me to do that. So
Okay, so 3 things. So one was being more aware. The other one's being more connected.
right.
And the other one was not having your narrative
For sure.
prevent your perception, so to speak.
I think they're all very related too.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Susie?
I think I'm just aware of myself. When I was out in the garden or something, I'm aware of how I feel. Like I feel happy and more comfortable, and in that kind of situation. And I don't know. I was thinking of the movies where, like in the martial arts and stuff, where somebody's coming before they're, kind of thing. That's what I'm thinking that you were. That's what came to me when you were asked him the question about awareness of your surroundings and stuff. And I think there's been times in my life when I've been so aware that it scared me. I mean, and I don't know that it's what you're talking about, but it's like, I don't want to be that aware. I don't want to know ahead of time. I don't want to, or, I don't want to. And so I kind of just backed off. Or like if I read Edgar Casey or something, and I go into this, it's like sometimes it just freaks me out. So I just rather just stay in the...
So you're saying that sometimes you had cognitive ability, precognitive. You knew of events that were coming, and that frightened you?
I don't know what it is. It's just like an understanding of something that's another dimension or beyond me or something. And like, I don't know, I was reading one book, and I was outside, and I was like in the sun, and I was like, I could just die right now. It was just weird. I don't know, it's just like, I could just stop breathing, and I don't know, stuff like that.
I'm sorry, how does this relate? What was the point with feeling
It's
that?
just an awareness of the times in my life when I was reading books or something that, was delving into the mind and stuff, and it just would freak me out.
Questioning. You're questioning deeply, and somehow you're having insights, and that was scaring you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Or like you said, there's sometimes I think you said that you knew what somebody was going to say before they said it.
yeah, when
You
I
know.
did acid once.
Yeah, well, it wasn't acid. I don't know what, you know, but just different things. I don't know that. You know, well, because I've done Reiki and all that stuff too. So, I can, it's hard for me to be really specific, but to get into, well, Reiki, for instance, getting into somebody else's field and, you know, and stuff, and like the mood ring. Well, what mood are you in when this turns color, or your aura, you know, and stuff. And I said, well, I could study this and you know get further into than just what's. But I don't. There's been times I don't want to.
Okay, so it was altered perceptions kind of scared you.
Yeah.
Is it, anything else come up for you while you were listening to other people?
Just now?
Yeah.
I mean, I can kind of see where she's at.
You want to explain it to us?
You know, I mean, as far as like, I can understand like the fear, you know, the insights. I mean, because it reveals the true nature of reality, and it's actually very different from what we actually think it is. And it's comes as quite a shock, especially, you know, maybe if you have like a few insights, like after a few in a row, and it, you know, massively change your perspective.
Yeah, like going on a plane and you're like, oh, I'm disappearing, you know. Did you ever do that? When you're flying in a plane, you're going on a plane, you know, and you're looking down at Earth, and the people are kind of big, and then they get smaller and smaller. As you go further away, everything gets smaller, and to where actually it just disappears, and you go, well, actually, I'm like this, even smaller than an ant. I mean, I'm not even an ant. I don't exist. You know what I mean? Have you ever? You don't know? You've never had that kind of thought?
So I know what you're talking about because Carl Sagan kind of talks a little bit about that. You know, and the little blue dot, and it says, "Well, this is where we are in the galaxy. And this is where we are in this area." And then you know, when you look at the whole thing, we're negligible. And I try and put myself into that kind of mindset. You know, you get it just doesn't matter. Nothing matters because I'm so small. It's hard. But this fear thing, I don't. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't get that at all.
It's not.
You know, that's something I relish. Some different kind of perspective or alternate. I want that really bad, which is probably why it's a little farther away, maybe. But
yeah, I think it's just it doesn't always happen, but there's been times when it's like, okay, I've gone too far. Now I don't want to. I want to be here. It's almost like it takes my breath away. You know, it's like
All right, so here, let me turn it on me. All right, we're getting some great camera work out of this. So the question really was about enlightenment. You know, what it would look like to be enlightened, right?
Yeah.
And you said that you've had glimpses of altered perception, like kind of scared you, and you said that. Well, you said that. Well, what I got from what you guys said essentially is that there's a little bit of duality in the sense that you're there's a little discomfort with where you're at. There's a little bit of judgment of thinking that you're not enlightened right now. And that's really the only thing that prevents you from being at ease with your enlightenment, is this sense that, you know, it should be different, or that I think for you wanted it to feel like calm and peace and I don't know, maybe you saw the Yoda or something and you figure you should be a little like that, you know, just
Yeah.
have power over the elements, or, you know, or over yourself, or, you know, kind of like the wizardly image. And for you, what was the thing that was holding you back, thinking that you're enlightened now, that other people could, that you could see your ego, you can see your ego flare up and so forth, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, I don't know that I'm enlightened or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hear teachers say that, you're already enlightened, you're
Mhm,
already awake.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, essentially, like I mentioned to you yesterday, there's a part of us that can never be enlightened, which is our ego,
Right.
because it doesn't exist. And I guess the association. I also, you know, I also had this thing, like I was sucking up to my guru all the time. I wanted his attention. I wanted his validation, and you know. And then when I began teaching, it's like I was in competition with people because I was afraid they were going to prove me a hoax or something. Because anytime our ego is involved, since it doesn't exist, it's going to feel very threatened, you know. And you know, when you realize that really your ego can never be enlightened, that it's not Marcelo that's imparting any kind of wisdom here, and it's not Susie or Mike or Bobby listening either, then you can relax a little bit, you know?
I don't feel so relaxed.
Right.
I know.
Yeah. But there's a state of home, you know. There's a state of home, of being at home
Mm-hmm.
with yourself, of feeling yourself. I guess the way Prasad put it is, he said, you know, you can have a taste of yourself. It might happen in sex. It could happen on a trip. It could happen listening to satsang. It can happen in meditation. You know, at any one given moment, you can have a taste of yourself. And he said, what I do is I help you ground in that so that you realize that's who you are. So you don't misidentify with what you're not and think that you're the narrator, you know, looking in at yourself for enlightenment, and that it's just a furtive thing you haven't achieved or something. But you seem like there's something cooking upstairs, like something you want to say or feelings you're having. Or
No, it's just, I mean, I can feel this energy just flowing through my body right now.
Mhm.
It's not very comfortable.
Yeah. So is it that the energy is not comfortable, or is it that, you know?
I mean, it's fear, and I mean, I can feel it in the body.
Right.
Yeah.
So the fear is not the energy. The energy is actually very comfortable. Okay.
It's masked right now, that comfort.
Well, the energy is very comfortable. The resistance is
Uh-huh.
very uncomfortable. And the fear that you were feeling, you know, this is the resistance.
Did you have that before you came here, or
Yeah.
the fear, or the
When you are on your way here, you had it. Is that what
Yeah.
you mean? Yeah, because you knew it was going to get confronted. You're
Well, I saw, you know, I watched the movie this morning, and then there was just one scene, and it triggered something, and it's like, bam.
What was that?
That was the movie Swing Blade.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he talks funny. I know somebody talks like that. Yeah.
But, you know, he talked about memories,
Uh-huh.
and that's like, that would be our connection with time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I feel that's the one question that I want to ask.
Go ahead.
Oh, I didn't mean you. I mean, but
No, ask it
as far
anyway.
as
Ask
inquiry,
it to...
like, so. I mean, they say that time is an illusion, right?
That's what they say.
Yeah. So I had a guy. This guy that's been helping me. He's a teacher. He's probably my age, maybe even younger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I imagine that he woke up a long time ago, like when he was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
My other buddy, his son woke up at 14.
Mm-hmm.
But so I told him about something that happened a few days ago, and well, I told him about an insight I had, and he said, well, you didn't obtain that insight. And he says, the fact that you're telling about it now is, I mean, you're projecting yourself into the past. He says, that never happened.
So the point being,
Well, I mean, what are memories?
well, what was the insight? Let's start there.
Oh boy. Okay. I had done some inquiry, and I just saw the answers bubble up into my mind, and it was, what am I afraid of? And it was like, the answers just floated up like bubbles into the brain, and I guess I didn't make much. I guess I expected that to a certain extent, that the answers would arise, but I never really paid it attention because I didn't know how inquiry worked. Just kind of figured it out, and so we think that we're the ones doing the thinking, but we're not. So you have to ask, well, then where do these thoughts come from? Where do these memories come from? But if you look at a stream of thought, at least as far as I can tell, the first thought that I've noticed is a response to our senses. So each thought is an image. It's like a film strip. And then they link one thought to the next, and so typically, you see something, and then your mind races to its memory, pulls out a slot, and it does a little compare and contrast, so it knows what it's dealing with, and then projects you. There may be like a couple more things going on there, but that's what I noticed, that projects you. So like, if I saw like a girl walking down the street, my mind would race to its memory, and then I'd pull out something so I could identify this woman. But then what might happen is I might start thinking about me on a date with a woman in the past, or something like that. And the next thing I know is the mind, it shoots the future. So what it's doing now then is it's trying to project, it's trying to maintain this illusion of self, and it does that in time. In the past, in the future. So then what I might be thinking about is a date that I want to go on, or how I want to be with a girl, or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I mean, what I see happening with you essentially is the ego thing. It's like, so you have an insight, you do inquiry, you do your work, and you have an insight, and something comes up, and then you share it with somebody, and they invalidate you. Essentially, they're saying, well, no, that's not whatever it is, or it's, so then, because you're so identified with your ego and how it's reflected back to you, that carries a charge. The same way that being awake, or well, his kid woke up at 14, and this other person's awake, So there's a charge with waking up. Forget about waking up.
Okay.
Just get to this moment. This wake up, asleep thing is bullshit. Prasad said, before he stopped teaching, he taught for about 3 years. I caught him at like the last 4 months of it. And he said, I used to, go around waking people up. He said, and then I realized that in order to wake you up, I had to perceive you as asleep first. So he realized the folly of the duality of his thinking. So he was thinking of himself as awake, he was thinking of us as asleep. This is total duality. How can you teach non-duality if you think you're awake and everybody else is asleep?
Sure.
It's just the ego. The ego has a charge with how it's going to be labeled or seen. My ego cares what an impression it makes upon you. But do I give a shit? No, because you and I are the same.
Mhm.
You know. And when we stop relating at the level of ego and bullshit, then we can just be ourselves, you know, and that's what feels comfortable. That's what feels like home. The discomfort, the fear is just the ego, knowing that it's going to get a confront here. So on your way here, you already know you're going to get confronted with your ego. In as much as you're misidentified with your ego, then you're in fear, just as she can be with the insights that she has. You know, fear always is related to ego because the ego doesn't exist.
Sure. Yeah.
So the fear is afraid of being busted, essentially.
That's exactly what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I realized. What was it? Yesterday morning, you know, or 2 mornings ago when I woke up from my dream.
Mm-hmm.
Told you about that.
Yeah, but you can share it with them.
So I had woken up from sleep. I had an intense dream, and it wasn't a scary dream or anything like that, but it was a intent or emotionally charged dream. And it woke me up. I remember the dream. You know, I said, "What am I doing? What am I doing?" And it woke me up. So I woke up, and then all of a sudden I just felt this fear bubbling up. And then what I've been doing for the last month is fighting it. And you know, I've been told, you know, it's time to start letting go. And I was just like, well, fine, let's see what happens. And I just let it happen. I didn't fight it. And then what happened is, when that fear disappeared, I disappeared. And I felt this, it was like there was a moment there of not knowing where I was. But it was a very liberating and very charged feeling, and I could feel this energy radiating through my body, and it was the most amazing thing I've ever felt in my life. And it only lasted for a few seconds, and then I was like back to normal. But it was so, you know, these emotions that we have, I think, are essentially what we are. As far as like, not the true self, and I'm reluctant to call it true self. In fact, I don't like that term at all, because the term self is very personal. You know, you think self, me, personal, but the self is impersonal. Because if it, you know, non-duality, not two. If there's not two, then there are no persons. There's no reason to. So that's why I don't like the term self. But where was I going with this?
You felt really good.
I felt amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, letting go of the fear.
Just surrendering completely.
Not resisting the fear. Going into it instead of trying to get away from it. Because when you try to get away from it, you're giving it life. You know, anytime you give energy to something, whether it's resistance or embrace, you're giving it life.
So, yeah, you know what I was going to say about you know, I said that when the fear vanished, I vanished. So it's like these emotions, they make up what we are. If you look at the ego and you begin to break it down, you know, I mentioned like the images, right? And then I told you how I had these two repetitive thought patterns just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So what's under that is actually emotion. And those are the attachments, and that's what makes us feel real. It's that emotion that's underneath that.
Or it makes us feel ourselves. It's like that's what we
Or that's how we
self-identify
with the ego.
Self-identify
Okay,
with
yeah.
the ego, yeah.
So if you disappeared, where did you go? I mean, what does that feel like?
There was a moment of not knowing, but I felt everything. It was a feeling of oneness. But
Yeah.
it was
You know,
a personal oneness.
I'm wondering if it's something like this. One time I was in a class where I don't know what it was called, but these people were very wonderful, peaceful people. It was very strange. And we and this is the different times of my life. But we were on this ball. These exercise balls, right? And they told you, just get on it, and so I got on it, and I totally, relaxed my body, and I'd have a reaction or something because of my neck or something, and they'd say, why are you doing that, and then they just like kind of touched my spine or something,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember going, I don't know, all of a sudden I was like, and I was like, I was so relaxed or something that I was in this expansive place, and I was like, wait, I want to tell everybody. I want to tell them this. I went somewhere, and I remember like doing this with my body, trying to get. It's like I was in a dream. But it was weird. It was very strange, and I did it more. They did it, with me more than once.
So this part of us that wants to share it is our ego.
Yeah, for sure.
But this experience that you were having of feeling so good, or like you were having a, ecstasy or whatever, this is a reality. This is what it is like all the time. But in order to exist in this confinement, in this dimensional confinement, we put ourselves through all these trips of ego and belief that we're stuck and that we're Marcelo and that we're this or that we're that. And that's how we perpetuate this limited illusion.
Yeah.
So, this is about shifting the perception and shifting the identification. I remember Prasad used to talk about being misidentified, It's like your identification has to do with your dental records. Dent is teeth. And it's, when somebody dies, that's how they used to tell who it was, because through their dent, it's because there's bone, it didn't change, calcium or something. So identifying somebody was very much about their teeth, and it's very much the individual identification, with a body mind is what all that identification is about, So if you're not identified with your body mind, then what?
I just have these questions. Like, what did they do to me? I mean, because I wasn't in a position of, meditation, sitting in a position that made me feel sore and, my legs killing me. I was actually very relaxed. And so my mind goes, okay, so maybe you were just dreaming. You were just in... I was like, I was very aware. I was very aware and very awake of my surroundings, but yet I was in a different place. I was like, oh my God, you guys, there's someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to get back,
Really?
Get back?
Really? No, it was very real. It was very...
No, I mean,
you wanted to experience
why,
that again.
why not extend the
Well,
experience? Yeah.
I don't know. I was there in this sensation or whatever. And it was like, oh wow. It's like, oh, this is really happening and I want to share it. It was like, and I was really joyful. And I was like, wow.
Wow.
It was like, wow.
This is so different.
Wow.
Or,
I mean, my God, wow.
yeah.
You know, I don't know how. And I want everybody to know
Yeah.
that, you know.
The degree of surprise or wowness is directly related to the resistance,
Yeah.
you know, that we live in most of the time.
Maybe I felt fearful that it was different and I wanted to come back. There's that too. There was all that.
Yeah,
you know,
there was your mind's attempt at somehow, you know, shorting the
Whoa,
experience.
where am I? You know.
Mhm.
Oh, I know I'm here, but you know, and that was my experience. Do we stop putting this thing on my?
Yeah. But
You're always so relaxed. You're so like, no, that's not true. But when you are, it's like really wonderful. You know what I mean? And you're so relaxed, or you give off this. I don't know, it's very expansive. You know, and it's.
this is just the right woman to be with, huh? To have that kind of reflection coming back at you. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, when you're not pretending to be who you're not, it's very relaxing. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no show to keep up. There's nobody to convince. You know, there's nothing to be afraid that it's gonna get unwound. It is very relaxing to just be yourself. You know, and in fact, you can't really help it. It takes a lot of work to, you know, prevent it. So you see people going around. You know, we were talking about this. You see people going around trying to do all these things, twisting themselves into all these different positions, trying to accomplish all these different things, just to have an ounce of happiness at the end of it all. You know, and there's a friggin' fountain of it inside you all fucking time. You know, unstoppable. You gotta work at stopping it. So you look around and you go, God, you know, you guys are wasting your lives. You know, there's a purpose to being alive, you know.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the picket fence or any of the stuff.
Is it that we're taught that? I mean, it's the way that we're taught when we're little and the feedback that we get?
I don't know, what do you think?
No, for sure. It's conditioning. You know, people, you know, I mean, our parents play a big role in that. You know, without our parents, we wouldn't know what to think. And so, like, these beliefs that we acquire from our parents, you know, they tell us, no, you can't do that, you can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're always pushing us, guiding around. We just take their word for it. We believe it. You know, we don't challenge those beliefs. And then we go to school. Same thing there. You know, there's authority. You know, we're not taught to question authority. And so we just lap up everything they give us, and then so all of a sudden their beliefs are our beliefs. You know, and then it's like, you know, you go around with other people, and you know, you'll see people judging each other. So you're gonna see that judgment, and that's also going to tell you how you can't behave because they're judging you. So you can't be yourself.
And it's then at a societal level too. You know, it's like the people that are being, you know, like made gods are, you know, like the movie stars. You know, people that are seeking fame and fortune and attention, and you know, very very fake people that are really very lost. Don't know who they are. You know what I mean? And it's like in one movie they're with somebody, and in the next one they're with somebody else, and they kiss that person, they fall in love with them, their marriage is over. You know what I mean? It's like, everything's flip flop all the time. Their lives are just like, you know.
But I think we want to be entertained, you know, and I think that there's threads of truth and goodness and stuff all through the movies, or rage, or, you know, whatever. There's always some sort of lesson we want to see.
Well, who doesn't want to be, you know, entertained away from their own movie? You know, I love taking a break from the Marcelo movie. You know, I love watching Monk or whoever the hell's up there do their deal. You know, because then it's like it's not Marcelo. You know, that I'm focusing on. It's like I get a break. The rest of the time, it's usually Marcelo. But, it has its limitations. That's why I like this so much, you know, because this allows my true, you know, I don't know if you can't call it personality, you know, but it's my true being or whatever to, you know, shine through for all of us, you know. That's why we all love it, because here it's like our heart, you know, like soars, you know. There's no boundaries, there's no pretense, there's, you know, there's no limitations. And that's why I like meditating, by the way.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm gonna start meditating. Yeah. I like it too, even though I haven't done it much.
That's what I keep saying.
Yeah, but you were saying that you're a natural. I know you're saying.
Well, formal meditation. You know,
Mhm.
it's formal meditation that I don't do. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, I get, if you could call studying thought meditation, I would lump it in that category.
Mhm.
I don't really know, but
What was that?
what's
Study?
that?
Did you say?
Studying thought. That's what I
Oh,
call
okay.
it. I just, you know, totally says watch the thinker.
Right.
I have to use the bathroom.
So are you meditating more now?
So my walking is getting better. I'm more focused, more concentrating on the sounds of, and the contact between the earth and my feet. It's definitely getting better and more focused, I guess.
Yeah.
The sounds too, kind of combinate. I go through periods where I'm trying to walk as quietly as I can and watch how my foot hits the ground. So that's definitely helping. Or, you know, I don't know, kind of, I can feel some changes going on.
Have you tried it barefoot yet?
It's painful even in these shoes.
Really? Where you're going, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I went to the beach, probably it'd be okay.
No.
No.
No, because the reason why is that it's trampled so much already, and there's an expectation. It's not really raw to me. I don't know, to me it's not. You know, when you, just the feeling of going on a trail where it's, people are walking on it, and then the feeling, just the energy that comes up into your body, and there's nothing in the way. There's something about that, you know, and being out in the wild and doing that.
Yeah.
It would be, you know, it's
Yeah,
just different.
The barefoot people talk about it being kind of they get addicted to it, I
You
guess.
get back to your root. I was talking to my daughter about that, you know, because she loves to run and she's running in shoes and stuff.
I've noticed how the shoes that I normally wear, I can feel more stuff going on underneath them. I'm a lot more sensitive to what's happening there. But the other problem is it's cold.
Right.
Feet can't go.
Right.
They say you get used to it after a while. I'm sure you do. So that's going better. I've been driving to work with some tapes. There's a woman I went to a concert recently, Wah. And she does the Sanskrit chanting kirtan or kirtan, something like that.
Kirtan.
And so she's got several CDs out, so I've been listening to that on the way to work, and it's pretty nice, especially at 1 o'clock in the morning, just on the freeway, and just kind of relax.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds familiar.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah, that guy you like, from
Oh, Krishna Das?
Krishna Das, yeah.
So,
You know, you're like that. You're the star
Oh, geez.
student ways
Yeah,
or
no, don't be
anything else, because I'm fighting a headache, so I'd like us to sit down soon and have something to eat. If need be, I can take those pills, and then I have to drive out to Oceanside to do an estimate. But how are you doing? How are you doing right now?
I feel very relaxed. Yeah. So the fear has subsided. I have a pretty. The other thing is I haven't been sleeping. I have not been sleeping. It's like,
Hello.
it's not by choice. It's, for me, this happened really fast. 6 months ago, I didn't know what spirituality was, and I think that's also part of the reason why the fear is there, and why it's so intense for me, because it's like meditators, they take a really long. I think, well, shit. The other thing is like, my practice may have had nothing to do with this. This whatever's happening to me is like maybe just happening, and I haven't done a thing. So, but like I said 6 months ago, I didn't know what this was, and it's like everything that I ever thought was true about reality is not.
Right.
And so it's a massive shock to my mind.
Right.
And so with I have a buddy who's a Buddhist, and he's been meditating for 14 years, so he's very seasoned. And he told me that he never experienced any fear, and some people don't experience any fear. Some people want to know the truth so bad that it doesn't bother them or it doesn't affect them. But I mean, it could also be like my background, because there's a lot of emotion that's been built up over the years. I did not have a very pleasant life, to be honest with you. Childhood, teenage years. I mean, all the way up until I was 25 years old, maybe even later than that. Maybe well, I would say even till a year ago. I would say I've suffered my whole life. So, and I think what's happening is a lot of that is being released.
Yeah. Big time.
In the form of fear. And a lot of the when you're suffering like that intensely, a lot of that emotion is fear.
Yes.
Worry is fear. I mean, make no mistake, it is fear. And I was a worrier, by the way. So, and I think it's just like all just coming out at one time at once. So, in a concentrated form.
Is it like a form of wanting to be in control? Is that
Who is what if
the fear, when the fear comes up or something?
Ask him. He's the one sharing about it.
As far as fear goes, I mean, that's actually what controls us. We're controlled by our emotions. That's what gives our thoughts glue, and that's why we identify with the mind. It's because the emotion just makes, it makes you feel so real. Because that emotion, you feel an emotion, and you're, wow, that's me, And it's fear that binds us.
So are you saying emotion is bad?
Okay, well, this is that's a tough question, because I don't have the
Good
answer to
question,
that.
yeah.
But emotion, good or bad, gives our thoughts substance.
I understand that part. It makes sense.
So my main influence is Jed McKenna. I don't know if you know who he is. And he says,
yes.
Yeah,
He
he
says-
gave me his book.
all emotion is fear. Underneath, love is fear. And that we love people because we don't want to be alone. I don't know if I fully agree with that. I'm not anywhere as, I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it's an emotion that gives us substance, you know, gives the ego substance. It makes it feel real.
So if we're trying to get away from or control or something, the ego, doesn't that imply that?
To get away from the ego?
I mean, or to overcome the ego or whatever you call
Oh,
it.
does that reinforce it?
Yeah.
You know, I've been told that, but those, like some of the people in the forums, you know, they're like, actually a lot of them told me to stop studying thought or, you know, picking apart the ego. They told me to do that. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I ignored them because
Right.
it got me this far.
Right.
And I would say, you know, I compare like my progress to another people, not to like, you know, judge them or anything,
Mm.
but I do think that some methods work better than others.
Mm.
I do think that, and I think, you know, statistics show that. So as far as you know, this is actually something I learned very recently, and it's so Byron Katie, right? You've heard of her?
Yeah, yeah.
She has that
what
4
is it?
questions, right? It's
Yeah.
called the work.
The work. Yes.
So we, you know, like if, say you and I were having an argument, we were like going back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
and then in my mind, I'm gonna go home and be like, she's so wrong, she is so wrong. But it's like, it's, you know, instead of pointing the finger at you,
Mm-hmm.
the right thing to do is point the finger at me.
Right.
So I go home and say, okay, what I'm going to do, you know, I would say, okay, she's wrong. That would be my assumption. I would be like, is that true? Can I possibly know that's true? And of course I can't. I don't know that I'm right, but I want to believe that I'm right. So,
Well, if you say
what I would
you're
do
wrong,
at the end is I
then-
would turn that around and I would say, you know, is it possible that I'm wrong?
Yeah.
I'm wrong,
There.
or I just want to be right. Those are some possibilities. And then I'll examine the emotions that are involved with that thought. And this is what I do is I negate them. I not necessarily, but not the thought or the emotion, but I'll ask, or sorry, the combination, the thought and the emotion. You know, I want to feel that emotion for what it is. And so I'll put myself there, and I'll feel it, and then I'll say, what would I be without that thought or emotion? And it negates it. So that's like, that's essentially what I've been doing.
Mhm.
You know, John McKenna, he has a spiritual autolysis. And that's exactly what you do. That's how you do it. And I mean, this is a nihilistic method.
Nihilistic, you mean?
Nihilism.
Yes,
Yeah,
just define it for us.
I actually only learned this term like a week ago. I had no idea what it was.
You're fresh. You're fresh at the definition. You can
So, yeah, nihilism is like,
Sure.
what?
I think there's
Picture
like
the fall.
nihilistic philosophy, but then there's nihilistic approaches to spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I looked online and there wasn't a whole lot, but the nihilists, I mean, essentially what they do is they're, you could call it destroying the ego, but that's not exactly what you're doing. What you're doing is you're like weakening it, or the attachments, which are the emotions that are associated with those thoughts. So when those emotions are removed, thoughts have less influence over you. So when I would say, like, let's say I was really angry, you know, with you, for example, and I would say, what would I be without that thought, without that emotion? And I'd be like, wow, you know what? If I wasn't angry at her, I'd be really at peace right now. I'd be really calm.
Right.
Yeah, so nihilism, I guess it's related to annihilate, isn't it?
Right.
And I think the way Prasad put it is, he said something like the nitty, you know, not this,
yeah,
not
exactly.
that. It's a much quicker way of discovering who you are is to discover who you're not. So as you discover everything that you're not, because who you are is undefined, what remains is who you are. It's a nihilism. Now, a couple of things. One was this thing about reality. You said, it's like up to 6 months ago, then your whole perception of reality got shaken up because it wasn't what you thought it was.
Sure.
Well, is it ever? Is reality ever what we think it is?
Reality is before we can really answer that question, you would have to define reality. Now
let's define.
I'm switching into like philosophical mode here.
Yeah, let's define reality.
Reality, I'll give you a quick example here. It's like if we were watching TV, for example, we have these characters. We have these characters on the screen. And to us, we know they're not real. But just imagine that they kind of were real. They're and they actually think they're in there doing stuff, but they don't know what's outside. Mm-hmm. So reality to us is like what we see, but to them it's like what's in there. They have no idea. Mm-hmm. So for us, we identify with our ego.
Right.
So we see things through the lens of ego, which is false to begin with. Mm-hmm. So how can we know what reality is if we are not looking from the
right?
If we're not looking from the right perspective.
Right. So the Hindus refer to the world as Maya, illusion, which is the opposite of reality. And anything you can perceive with your senses